Cathy Perow, my guest today, is well known in production circles as a creative. She does a little bit of everything in the business, has worked at Fox, Walt Disney, executive production consultant, but she does many more things than that over the course of her career. And we're going to look at her career, look at her life here on the On to Something podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio. So, Cathy, first of all, welcome on. I'm excited to have you on as we look at your life. And this is where I wanted to start. I know you've worked a lot in animation.
Mm-hmm.
What in your life outside of work, what is it that you're most animated about?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Bryan. I'm so happy to be here. I followed your podcast and enjoyed watching some of my colleagues interact with you, and it's been a pleasure. To answer your question, what's been my passion outside of animation? I have to say right now, it's my daughter. She's my passion. She's what drives me, and it's been a fun ride. She's 15, and we're getting to the end, so it's getting interesting. But I would say she's my passion, and really I do enjoy working. It is part of it does round me out. And I think those are really the two things.
What is your daughter's passion?
What is my daughter's passion? Well, as a 15-year-old, her passion really is she's finding herself. She's growing up. She's just finished her freshman year in high school, and she's an avid golfer. So she enjoys that. Whether it's her passion or not, I'm not sure. She's a great writer. And her real passion is she wants to help people. She wants to get into psychology, into criminal psychology, and help folks that are really in need. I think that's her passion.
How do you feel like, Cathy, that has been a passion of yours too, in wanting to help people?
Yeah, I mean, I've always considered myself a facilitator. Everywhere I've worked, specifically career-wise, I've always said I'm here to help. I mean, in whatever way I can, be it from a producer standpoint or another role I might have, maybe in operations or having to do with business affairs or finance. I've always been able to change hats quickly. I can pivot pretty easily, and I enjoy the challenges that come with all those different responsibilities.
How are you someone that is able to change hats, be versatile? I mean, if you look at your resume from a work standpoint, there's really nothing you have not done. I mean, you've basically done everything. To do that, what sort of mentality does that take to be open to all of these changes that you've had and then be able to weather through all of that?
I think that's what drives me is the constant change, the day to day. It's never the same. I always feared getting into a role where it was the day in and day out was constant. I need the challenge. I welcome challenges. I like the complexity of being in production, in animation, and I really do love having a lot of balls in the air and having to be a part of a liquid environment, if you will, where it shifts as the day goes through, or someone comes along, and you're just constantly moving. You're constantly trying to find the new direction. And I mean that in a positive light, not that we're all spinning our wheels, but that, there is a satisfaction in being able to change your course when needed.
With that said, what does stillness look like for you?
That's a hard one for me. Physically and mentally, I have a very hard time staying still. Going to sleep at night is a challenge. It's really, really hard. So I think I find stillness in, exercising and just getting out in nature and really trying to um, enjoy moments, sometimes alone, a lot with my daughter. But it does take a lot to kind of bring me down.
Does golf in any way allow you to better your relationship with your daughter, and how are you able to bond in that way? I know you brought up golf earlier.
Yeah, so it was kind of a fluke. I just thought, well, it would be fun to on the weekends do something together because I'm working and she's in school, and really the only time we have to connect is the weekend. So it was something. She's not a huge sports fan. Athletic wise, we tried soccer, we tried softball, and as you do as a parent with your child, you expose them to everything, and you find something hopefully that clicks. And so I thought, well, let's do this. I'd like to do it. My parents played golf, and I enjoy watching it. It's so soothing to me to watch golf on TV, and I enjoy being out on a course. They're beautiful. You're in nature. And I like the precision of the game. That's really what I like. It's so precise. It's a mental game, and that feeds me. And that is something that my daughter and I do collectively together. And we get, we have fun. We're not great, but it's fun to be out there with her. And it's just a time for the two of us to reconnect, really.
You have been there for your daughter as that loving support. If we were to go back earlier in your life, when you were starting to get your career going, who was in your corner, in your circle, giving you that loving support that you look back at and say, if it weren't for these people, I would not have been able to get my career going?
I have to start with my father. He was my mentor. He was my advisor. And I was raised to do whatever I wanted to do. I was raised to go to school. It was the classic: go to school, you get a job, you're able to take care of yourself. We're talking from the greatest generation here, and there was never a stereotype in my house. I want to do this, and I would just hear, okay, then do it. There was never a question. There was never a doubt. Oh, well, you can't do that. But it was always, sure, go for it, try it. And when I had an opportunity to start a production company with 3 other directors, I was 24, and I came to my dad, and I sat at the kitchen table with him, and I said, I have this opportunity. And he just looked at me and smiled, and he said, go for it. And he said, but don't be afraid to fail. And I just stepped back and went, I'm not going to fail. And he just laughed. So, I was fearless. I didn't think that there was such a thing as not succeeding in it. And so went on that journey for 9 years. And then along the way, with that, and even prior to that, the people I was in business with, they were my mentors. I had 3 directors who also carried me along, if you will. I started out as a PA. I didn't know anything. And I kept asking, I'd like to do this. I'd like to do that. I want to be a producer. Okay, go ahead. If you have any questions, let us know. And it was very organic. There was no special program involved. There's no mentorship. It was just, it just naturally happened. But I had people behind me that believed in me and took care of me along the way and guided me.
In going back to what you said about your father and sort of his reaction to you in being that person to encourage you, and then to add on to that to say, don't be afraid to fail. But if you look back at just like everything you've done in the steps that you've taken to get to these different stops in your career, in reflection, Cathy, how much of it is going back to saying to your dad, yeah, I'm not going to fail, like you said to me? How much of that has been powering you from one stop to another, even with what he said being years ago, but to still hold on to that through all these years later?
Yeah, I did. I just kept going. I just kept plowing through. And after we closed our company, because we had to, I never looked at it as a failure. It was 9 years of going to school. It was the best education I could have ever gotten. And I think it made me a better producer, a better business person, because there were a lot of moments where it was pretty scary. There were a lot of situations that, we had to figure out how to survive and take care of business. And that's something that you can't get in the classroom necessarily. I was more of I want to get out of school and I want to work. I just had a passion to get out there and get my hands dirty. And I took that with me everywhere I went after our studio closed, because everywhere I went after that, I always felt like it was part mine. I treated it that way because I knew how hard it was to run a company, and I respected it. And to this day, I feel that's my philosophy. If I'm somewhere, I'm going to take care of it as if it's mine.
And having that mindset, clearly, in looking what you've done, it's paid off so well. Cathy Perow is with me. I'm Bryan Fenley. So how has your perspective on art and what you deem as artistic changed to this point, to when you first got involved in the industry early on, and what you think is right, what you think works in a business that can be, I would assume, very subjective?
You just took the words out of my mouth. It's all subjective. There's no right or wrong. It's a preference, or it's a brand, but when I started, look, my background, my passion was traditional animation. I loved Disney as a child, and I couldn't get enough of it. And going as simple as it sounds, going to Disneyland was just, magical for me. There's a part of that just it just feeds my soul. It always has, and it still does. I didn't know as much. I took art history in college, but until you get out there and you're dealing with people who are designers and who are skilled in different areas of the arts, I knew very little, really. And then I met people, and then my world opened up to modern art and the Renaissance, and they were artists in their own right. They did their own artwork, and that was incredible. And then they brought that to the table in different projects. So it grew as I, walked the journey with them, and even to this day, I think that's why I'm still in it, because there's such an affinity to be around creative. I'm not talented enough to make a living being a creative person, but I knew I would be well suited to support that creative industry, if you will. I have a good gut feeling about it. I can't tell you why. It's just something that it's inherent in me, and I still enjoy doing it all these years later. So, as far as the arts go, the world's opened up. A lot of different types of art opened up to me, and I'm grateful for that. Really, truly grateful.
And you saying it's a gut feeling, and you saying it's inherent, all of those signs point to this being your purpose in life. Like, this is what you knew you were supposed to do, and you're living that out, which is really, really cool. You brought up Disney, and something that even myself, growing up, we fawn over. And how has, even as a kid, in the way Disney, for me, it was like an escape. Whatever's going on in my life, I can watch something at Disney with Disney, or I can go to Disneyland, and I can forget about whatever struggles in my life are present. But beyond Disney, what have been your escapes in ways in which you've gone about, giving yourself that opportunity to sit back for a moment?
Well, I took piano as a child, and I really loved that. I took it for many years, and when no one else was in the house, I would just sit and play just by myself. Of course, you had the consummate. My parents would have people over for dinner, and come out and play a song, which was, you did. But really, it was an escape for me personally, that I could just sit there and pound on the keys. And I have a decent ear. I can read the notes, but I can hear this. I can hear the song in my mind, and so that was an escape. Unfortunately, I stepped away from it, and I keep telling myself to go back to it, because I walk past my piano every single day in my house and say, sit down and play it. So that's glad you brought that up. But that was an escape for me. And dance. I took dance for many years too, when I was young. And so it was all art forms. It was a lot of movement. I had to move. So I think I escaped in that, and did gymnastics. That was an escape, but it was a physical thing. And I used to ride horses many years ago. That was fun, because that was a precise sport, and I enjoyed that. Like I do. I enjoy golf. It's the precision of it that's so challenging.
Outside of those things that you mentioned, that obviously you spent a lot of time doing when you were younger as a kid, piano, among other examples. But if you were to sort of forward your life to say you now becoming someone in the business of animation and your professional life is starting, what about earlier in your career would you like to recreate today? Sort of like how you would like to recreate getting back to the piano, that you enjoyed that. But what was enjoyable for you early on that you would like to see maybe recreated as well, as something that brought you joy early on?
That's a good question. I really, and it wasn't early on. I enjoyed being on a set, on a stage, and putting that piece of the puzzle together with a project that I really liked a lot. Kind of missed having that side of the business. I'm not surrounded by that very much, haven't been for many years, but I did enjoy that. And I have to say, fast forward, I think one of the most gratifying periods is being in the sports industry. And I fell into it. I didn't plan it. I wasn't averse to it, but I just didn't plan it. It just happened. And that was incredibly gratifying, to be a part of live events and to be a part of historical events that people enjoy collectively, globally at times, is pretty powerful.
Let's go in more in depth into what you just said there about your time working in live sports, seeing the global powers that are involved here when you talk about these sports like soccer and whatnot. From your perspective, hands-on, what was it like being in that world, living in that universe?
It was fast-paced, very fast-paced. It was it's a lot of work, because there was a lot of volume. But it was fun, because you're working on the NFL, and you're working on baseball, and you're working on NASCAR, and then you're able to go to these venues and experience that. It's awesome. But prior to that, I had the opportunity to work on 2 Winter Olympics, and I would say those are near and dear to my heart. And that's really where I fell into sports graphics. I was freelancing at a company, and the producer working on the 94 Winter Olympics came in my office and said, how would you like to go to Norway? I went, okay. And dropped the package on me. I went, oh my gosh, I had never done it in my life. But, fast forward and spent 2 months in Lillehammer, Norway. And if someone would have told me that was going to happen, I would have said, you're crazy. How is that going to happen? So those are the kind of things, those accidental moments that happen as you're just journeying through your career, just just working and the happenstance, right? And really, it was so gratifying and so incredible, and to be able to participate in that again, like I said before, it's a historical event, and you're bringing so much joy to so many people, and that's pretty special. And to be able to do it a couple of times, I really think that those were some of the highlights.
I go back to something you said early on. Cathy Perow is with me. I'm Bryan Fenley, about your gut feeling and how it's been so correct in so many ways in being that compass towards what you should do with your career. And here you are getting ready for this Olympic opportunity, not really sure what's coming, not really sure what it all involves, not to put words in your mouth, of course, but to say this was a new opportunity for you that you hadn't done before. And there again, I see that where, what was it about the way you entrusted in that moment, in the people around you, where you point out early in your career, later on, but over and over again, Cathy, it's like your gut knew what was right for you.
Mm.
And why do you think that is, that you have that ability?
I've always trusted my gut. Personally, career-wise, everything is in my gut. And sometimes it doesn't feel good, sometimes it's spot on. But I remember specifically being at the studio and having, again, a conversation with my father on the phone. And I said, Dad, I'm exactly where I need to be right now. Exactly where I need to be. And, I think there's divine intervention through all this. And, I was always itching to get to the next place. I want to work here and I want to work there. And that's really what drove me. So, again, after we closed our studio, you have to go, yeah, I got to go work. Where am I going to go? And, I landed at a few places. Then I landed at this company called Resonate. And the amount of talent in that facility was staggering. Every monitor I looked at was breathtaking. It was full of just gorgeous images. The people were incredibly gifted, kind, and to this day, I still consider some of them family. I've always gravitated to facilities, companies, studios because of the people. We spend so much of our lives doing this, and if you're not clicking with the people and you're not enjoying the company, then for me, it's not worth it. The obviously the work is paramount, but you can tell right away if you're going to click and if this is your home for a while. I always considered each place I went home because they're secondary family. Again, spending so much time day in and day out with these people, you entrust them with so much, and you can't help but get close to them, and you share so many successes with them and struggles with them that it becomes a very special bond. And then the projects that you work on together make it even that deeper a bond.
To say that the way you did was beautiful in the sense that we think about a sports team and how if things click, the results turn out, here come the wins. For you, it's the same exact thing with what you're doing. If you enjoy the people you work with and you get to know them on a deep level, the product is so much better. And so as we sort of wrap up this conversation, Cathy Perow, I'm Bryan Fenley. How do you, when you think about some of those highs of your career, how do you fathom all that you've done in stacking it all up together with what you've done and trying to sort of piece overall the vastness of what you've done.
I feel very blessed that I've had the opportunity to not only work on amazing projects wherever I went, but was surrounded by such incredible talent and such amazing human beings. I just feel like I'm very proud of it. And I'm grateful that I was able to be part of it, that these facilities, these people trusted me enough to take me in and trusted me to with their projects to help them move it along. Because again, at the end of the day, I'm a facilitator. I'm here to help. And I look back, I'm happy, I'm satisfied. I'm very proud of so many things, and also proud of the relationships, but proud of, you can't help but be proud of yourself from where you've come from to where you are. You hope that along that journey you've grown, and you've tripped a couple of times, and I know I have, but that you've grown and it's made you a better person, and it's made you a wiser person. And I think really the takeaway for me is what are the lessons too? There's been a lot of lessons along the way, and how can I share that with my daughter? I want her to see that, aside from you can do whatever you want, granted, but that there's a joy in it, right? That the journey has to be a joy, and that and it's one thing that I will always remind her of. If you get up and you're not happy, you're in the wrong place. You got to be happy. And if it's not feeding your soul, then you have to reevaluate it. But if it feeds your soul, again, at a gut level, I think you're good to go. Your radar, it's keeping your radar in check. That's how I look at it.
And no better display of seeing how that has unfolded in a beautiful way than looking at your life and what you've done, and your resume, your reputation. It speaks for itself. And I find it just beautiful in the sense that you talked about your journey and being satisfied and knowing what you've done, and the people, the relationships that you've developed over the years. And I go back to what you said earlier about when your work journey got started. And you used the word pride. You must be proud with what you've done, the people that you've worked with, but also in yourself. In that, if you were to tell the younger version of Cathy Perow, when you went to your dad, just getting your work stuff started, and he encouraged you, but also on the other side gave you a sense of reality and that maybe it doesn't work out. But if you were to fast forward and know what you would become, it goes all back to that pride, and that you were going to make it. And certainly your dad would be so proud if he knew then what you would become. And it's really kind of a cool full circle thing. Cathy Perow, I'm Bryan Fenley. This was really fun. Really enjoyed kind of learning about your psyche, learning about your passions, and how you've made it the way you have.
Well, I appreciate the time. It was a pleasure being with you, Bryan. Thank you so much.